our footsteps on the banks of the Nile. They see our fingerprints in the pyramids, and they say, well, how'd that get this? We got to figure out how to justify that. They said, no, no, no. Somebody who came from the moon, came from outer space did that shit. You couldn't do it as a black man or woman. You had to be taught from the moon people. And then we fall into that analysis. Because if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else you think you know will simply confuse you. And so we run around understanding that what's happening is that we've been the victims of violence beyond violence. We've been the victims of a system that is so destructive that it becomes creative. Look at that contradiction. A system that is so destructive, it becomes creative. And it creates these zombies and these Frankenstein images of humanity that we call ourselves black. We walk around taking pride in the distortion of ourselves as opposed to the authenticity of ourselves. It is so compelling. This violence beyond violence is so compelling, it becomes dangerous and frightening. We look up and don't realize that we're inching closer and closer, trying to get closer to the white folk. We who are conscious, we who have some kind of sense of ourselves being African people, don't realize that the seduction is so powerful, so powerful that we end up inching away, inching slowly, trying to get closer to them. Even though we may not even have a white person that we can call friend. You know, we say, I don't have no white friends. But how I conduct myself, how I walk, how I think, the choices I make, the chances I take, all say I bow down to the glory of whiteness. And so we need to understand how seductive this issue is. It is powerful, it is irresistible, it almost becomes sacred. You are sinning when you say something bad about white people. You are sinning. And black folks get uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable. No, well, he can do that stuff because he got a job. He got tenure at the university. They can't fire him. We make up excuses for someone telling the truth. We have to look at and understand that this holy violence is critical. And Marimba Ani has done an excellent contribution to our mental liberation by giving us a term to focus on this holy violence. She uses the term ma'afa. Ma'afa. But ma'afa is more than just death and destruction. Ma'afa is death and destruction beyond human comprehension and convention. It is the beyond human comprehension and convention that gets confused because we want to understand. You know, we want to explain, well, the reason why this happened to me because I had the misfortune of being in the presence of a single evil white cop. You know, and so I can comprehend that this one individual white cop was a rogue cop. I can understand that, but we can't understand when violence becomes this ma'afin where it is beyond human comprehension and convention. I always point out of those 100 years where African men and women were lynched every single day of the year for 100 years. Then we just stopped counting. It became too incomprehensible. We just could not continue counting the record. But if you can think psychologically for a moment, what happens when children are growing up? Think about the deep psychic scar when every single day I'm going to school. Well, think about it in our own current terms. At that moment when your child is old enough where you want to give them their first evidence or example of adult responsibility, giving them that little few dollars to go and buy a loaf of bread or some sugar or milk or whatever, and you start to watch them in a protective way, seeing them go down the block to the store, get the bread and bring it back home as a part of the development of being a human being. But for 100 years, that little baby could not go to the store without maybe seeing his uncle lynched in a tree. Seeing his brother, his sister, his aunt lynched. That's a different psychological reality. You know, we came through that. And so we're not, in one sense, it is testament to our strength. But as a doctor, I have to also say, it is evidence of the deep psychic scar that we suffer from. You see, we have both things going on here. You can have people nurtured in 100 years of atrocity and not be damaged. See, we have to understand our damage if we are to rectify it. And this notion of the ma'afa, the death and destruction beyond human comprehension and convention is only understandable when you realize that the way the question, what do we do with these Africans, was answered, is that you deny the validity of their humanity. See, that's the answer. The Ma'afa was about the denial of the validation of the humanity of African people. And once I deny your being a valid human being, I can do anything to you. Yes. Because you're no longer human. I can do anything to you. So during the lynching, I can cut out a black woman's body, her baby, while she's being lynched. She's already being lynched, head over fire flames, being tortured and destroyed, and I will proceed to simply cut open her belly, and as that beautiful black baby falls to the ground, I take my foot and stomp its head. That's beyond human comprehension and convention. But it only happened when you have made the psychological shift to say, these things are not human beings. And when we walk to the store, when I get my degree, I got my gold card. I got doctor on my gold card. I'm so proud of myself. You know, don't have my first name is doctor on my gold card. When I go to the store to use my gold card, and someone looks right through me and waits on the white person behind me, that's ma'afin. That's destruction. That's the damage of my entirety as a spirit and as a human being. We have to look at these things not as some atrocious, vulgar act of violence, but at the more subtle, subliminal violence that erodes our sense of integrity as a human being. Ancients taught us that from the very beginning of time, the ancient ones taught us that if there is ma'at in the world, and we recognize ma'at, we also have to recognize that there are forces that will counter that ma'at, and that's what Marimba calls the ma'afa, what the ancients called esfet. Esfet, disorder, disease, disunity, destruction, disruption, deterioration, death. And so for a thing, there is no remorse in giving them disorder, death, destruction. And these are the things we look at, and we can see evidence of it. The ma'afa, the esfet, has been with us because we have been the problem for the world. All right. We have been the problem for the world, not because we're just black skin, but because of the power of our genius. And if we don't understand the power of our genius, we don't understand. So we think we got to prove ourselves. Part of the psychology of violence, and this is Veterans Day, and so I can point, right, this is Veterans Day, right? This is Veterans Day, and we like to take pride in the fact that black men and women fought in every war in America, and we never got our civil rights. Well, the problem was not that we never got our civil rights, the problem was that we chose to fight in the war. The problem is that we defended the interests of someone else other than our own nation. Now, I don't want anyone to go away thinking that I did not honor those black men and women who died making a choice, because the capacity to choose is evidence of your humanity. Even to the point where we are now seeing that during our enslavement, the masters would not allow us, and they're very explicit about this, we cannot allow these Africans to kill themselves. Because in choosing death over servitude, we've lost their being slaves. So if they're going to die, I must rub and kill you first. I can't give evidence that you chose to kill yourself. Because to choose is evidence of your humanity. See, I can choose to be here. And I can choose not to be here. But once you take away my ability to choose, then even though I am here, I am not here. You see, I am invisible. I am nothing. And we can look at our history. Look, it doesn't matter whether it's Rosewood, doesn't matter whether it's Tulsa, Oklahoma bombing, doesn't matter whether it's 100 years of lynching, doesn't matter whether it's the drive-by shootings where our young people are calling each other niggas, hoes, and bitches. It's all the same process of the psychology of violence. And this psychology of violence occurs because there was a decision to systematically de-Africanize African people, to de-Africanize us, to de-spiritualize us. And that systematic process occurs in a couple of ways, and I think I'm going to use one for this evening to talk about how it happens. I want you to recognize in the world that that every living thing has a nature. Every living thing has a nature.
All right.
And so